Hello, Pulsites. So I wanted to make this video to kind of explain the differences between Onshape and Solidworks and why I feel so strongly that Onshape is much better for 694 and FRC teams in general, especially during these coronavirus times. I thought, let me go through everything, what the main differences are, what the main pros and cons of making a swap to Onshape would be. And then what my plan is to model for you a drivetrain in both Onshape and SolidWorks so you can really see the performance differences from the two. And worst case scenario, maybe you'll steal a trick from me when it comes to SolidWorks that will make your workflow a little bit faster. So let's start with pros and cons. So here are all the pros and cons. Let me go through them one by one. First one, let me do the cons first. So it's new for us. We have a few people who are experienced in Onshape because they may have tried to pick it up on their own or they needed it for a class. I know that I used Onshape with my advanced robotics kids, so a few students who are in that class used it there. But because it's new for us, there are going to be growing pains for sure. Going to the next con, there were always unforeseen issues, right? Onshape might have some issues that we run into as we go through that we just don't understand yet because, well, we haven't used it the same way we've used SolidWorks. SolidWorks is at least a known quantity. All the issues we have with SolidWorks, we know what they are. We understand them for the most part. Merge errors through GrabCAD, just people struggling to load things onto GrabCAD. Issues where people don't have computers or their computers can't handle SolidWorks, but we understand those issues. Onshape might have a whole host of issues that we don't understand yet. I'm sure there will be some. Next con, there's a learning curve. Students who currently are quote-unquote experts in SolidWorks, or I'd say for high school age students, we have many experts for sure at SolidWorks, and they have to learn a new program if we make this swap. So for at least a short while, they'll probably be worse. But I personally have a ton of faith that any student who mastered SolidWorks will quickly master Onshape because they did put in that work and they do have a base level of skills, but there will be that learning curve. Next one, time and effort. Making the swap will be time and effort, not just in learning, but also pushing people to learn as well, where right now you have a good base of people who do know how to use SolidWorks. So there definitely will be time and effort if you make this swap that you'll have to put in that you could have put in on other tasks, other lessons. And the last con, the way I saw it, is that Onshape has no CAM functionality, unlike SolidWorks, which does have CAM functionality. But we don't use that CAM functionality in our when we use SolidWorks because we just use Fusion 360. So I don't think this makes a huge difference, but for some teams it does. I don't think that really applies to us. These are all the cons I could think of. If you have more, please share them, but these are the best ones I can think of, and I did some research on Chief Delphi. Now let's go over to pros. First one, Onshape is available on all devices. This includes Macs, which is a big problem for the team because students with Macs cannot run SolidWorks. It also includes Chromebooks and even phones. Now, Chromebooks, it'll be a little bit slow when you try to run like a full robot assembly, but you can design a mechanism on a Chromebook. And in terms of phones and tablets, again, you can run things, but those are better for viewing. At least a phone is way better for just viewing a CAD file. So let's say you're working on a project, you're building something, and you just want to see the CAD file, you want to see the dimensions, you can pull it up on your phone. SolidWorks doesn't let you do that. And then with a tablet, you could actually CAD a mechanism, but again, it's always easier on a computer. But you can use any computer. You don't need some super machine. Pretty much any PC should be able to handle Onshape no problem because it's just browser based. If you can play a game on a browser, you should be able to use Onshape. Next pro. Learning is a good thing. When I suggested that we switch to Onshape, I heard a lot of people saying they don't want to learn a new program. the point of the team is to learn ultimately. So learning new programs is going to set you up to be able to learn other programs faster and just have a better knowledge base. So a lot of people see that learning a new thing as a lot of effort, but I think it's a good thing to have students learn an additional CAD program. Okay, next one, more intuitive. So as I taught myself Onshape, I realized that it's actually a lot more intuitive, and I'll go through that when I model the drivetrain for you guys. It's really intuitive. Like, there are things about SolidWorks and Inventor that when you learn how to use them, it doesn't make a ton of sense, especially the mates. Like, it takes people a while to figure out how the mates work and how to make everything match up nicely. And a lot of new CADers have issues with that. But Onshape's is a lot more friendly in that manner, in that sense. It just works cleaner and it's more intuitive to learn. So I think students who are learning CAD for the first time are going to have an easier time for that reason. Okay, next, ease of file sharing. So as we saw in our design competition, we had a lot of issues with file sharing and working collaboratively. Even during our presentations, people didn't have stuff shared on GrabCAD properly. And don't get me wrong, if you are an experienced CADer and you've used GrabCAD a lot with a team, you shouldn't have issues. Like, I mean, I wouldn't say I don't run into issues, but I usually don't. And I'd say, the veteran members of the team don't usually run into issues loading stuff onto GrabCAD, but young members do, and we often have issues with that, and we have issues involving young members for that reason. But with Onshape, it's super easy to share files. An inexperienced CADer can share files easily. An inexperienced CADer can access other people's files easily without worrying about destroying everything. I like to think that Onshape is more like Google Drive in terms of file sharing, and GrabCAD and SolidWorks work more like a Dropbox. So it's it's got some extra steps to it. It's a little bit more annoying. You need a little bit more experience to do it successfully. Next part, no installation required. There is, sorry, I had to pause there for a second. Let's continue. So next pro is there's no installation required for Onshape. It's just a browser. You need to create an account, but you don't need to distribute keys. You don't need to download anything. You don't need to take up space on your computer. And I think this is a big deal because I think students are more likely to be able to access the program because there's no installation required. But that kind of goes back to the all devices thing. But also, I think students are more likely to try Onshape. If you want to try SolidWorks, it's not like, okay, let me give this a try. It's, all right, request a key, wait a few hours for it to download, hope it doesn't fail. It'll probably fail the first time because it did something wrong. A lot of people have it fail the first time. Then you got to download it again, and you have to wait a couple days, essentially, before you actually get something that you can try. Whereas Onshape, it's like, I'm interested in this. Let me create an account, which takes 5 minutes maybe, probably less, but I'll be a little generous, 5 minutes. And then you can try it. You can see what it's about. You can look at people's designs. And I think that will make more students more likely to learn CAD, try to learn CAD at least. Next one, version control. So this is a big plus. There is some version control with GrabCAD, but it's not as extreme as with Onshape. Onshape version control is a lot like Google Drive version control. Like, you have a Google Doc, someone makes a change, the old version is saved, and you can access every single version, every single change, period. Same thing with Onshape. You make any change to a design, you can access it at any point. You can see who made changes, which can be very, very useful because you don't need to be afraid that you're going to ruin someone's design by tinkering with it. You don't need to be worried that you're going to ruin your own design by tinkering with it because everything is saved on the cloud for you automatically, which I think is just fantastic. And we've had a lot of issues in the past where someone, kind of went back on a design and they went back, and so they wasted a ton of time going back and forth, and then, most of their time was in that back and forth instead of the actual designing, which isn't really what we want. Next pro, great parts libraries. So if you want to load something onto SolidWorks, like a gearbox off of Vex, you find the step file on their website, you download it, you import it onto Solidworks. You can do the same thing with Onshape. But what people have done in the FRC community is a lot of people have gone through and they've loaded these step files onto an Onshape file that you can make a copy of. That way you don't have to go through the pain of importing these. So all those parts libraries are already there, and you can kind of go through and see the different parts, the different gearboxes, different gussets, everything, without importing them, which I think is a big time saver and really nice. And then the last thing is, with remote learning coming up, or at the very least a blended learning model coming up in this next semester, I'm going to be showing my students how to use Onshape in my intro robotics class, because it's the CAD program that makes the most sense for what we're doing in that class, and it's going to be easier for people to access. If I'm using Inventor or something else, it's going to take me a while to make sure that all the students have access to it, whereas Onshape, I know it's going to be easy. If a kid has a device, they're going to be able to access Onshape and do the work for the class. And in turn, there will be a larger group of students who know how to use Onshape. Some of them might be on the team. Some of them might be on the team in the future. So that could be another plus. And also, if I have my way, we'll be teaching Onshape in drafting, because I think it's going to be a lot easier for us to use than AutoCAD. But that's a side note. Okay, so that's it for pros and cons. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump in and design a drivetrain in SolidWorks and Onshape. And my plan is to time both, see which one takes longer, but also kind of go through what's easier. I'm not going to design this one. I'm just showing kind of a model of what I'm going to design. This is Edwin's drivetrain. I'm not going to include electronics. Sorry, Dan. I'm not going to. I might include belts. We'll see how I'm doing on time. I'm not going to include like bumper mounts and stuff, but I'm going to get a 6-wheel drivetrain with Versa frame, West Coast drive, kind of like what we usually do on 694. Okay, so let's hop right into that.